Ajnanatimirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hello everybody. Welcome back to those who've been here before. Welcome for the first time. Those coming for the first time. This is a special opportunity to be in a holy place and to do what holy people do. All the sacred texts, questions and answers. Bhagavad Gita, questions, answers. Srimad Bhagavatam, questions, answers. Like that, all the across the Upanishads, questions and answers. It's the way that we connect with one another. It's the way that we go deeper and deeper and deeper into our understanding of that which is beyond maybe the reach of our senses, beyond even the reach of our imagination. But we can hear from testimonies that have come down over the ages, and we can discuss within the context of those conversations. So that's what we try to do here. We try to speak in line, harmonious with these timeless teachings that have come down for so many ages. Thank you all for coming. We will start with one question from any one of you who would like to raise your hand and get it started. Who will be that person tonight? Every night it's a different person. And tonight it will be one of you. There we go. I'm forgetting your name. Remind me, please.
Andrea or Siddhartha. So my question is, what would be the best questions to ask?
There's several ways we could answer that question. But I'm reminded of something that I speak about a lot here, and I'll bring it up again. That Srila Vyasadeva, the sage who compiled the Vedic literature, compiled the 4 Vedas and the Upanishads, compiled the massive Mahabharata within it, including the Bhagavad Gita, compiled the 18 Puranas as well as the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutras. After he had done so much of this work, it's over 500,000 verses. Really brilliant verses, poetic verses, but incredibly rich with insights. He was giving social instruction. He was giving, but especially he was giving spiritual guidance through these. And anyone should feel so accomplished after having accomplished what he did, but he wasn't. He was feeling something was not quite right. Something wasn't quite right. And because he was a sensitive yogi, he went through the checklist. Have I been doing things right? Why would I be feeling like this inside? Have I honored the great sages? Have I properly honored the sacred texts? Etc., etc. He went down a list. I've done these things. He was reaching inside, trying to understand, why is this feeling of dissatisfaction in me? Why is this feeling of despondency in me? And he came to a conclusion that perhaps he had not been clear enough about some of the teachings. And so he was, at that time when he was just intuiting that, Narada came. Narada, the sage amongst the Devas, who was his guru. And Narada confirmed his intuition and instructed him to write more definitively, more clearly, more explicitly about Bhagavad Dharma, about Bhakti Yoga, and specifically to glorify the Leelas of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan. So he had to write another text, and that text was called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that text opens with a group of sages in the forest who are all gathered with good intentions, qualified people from across the Vedic traditions. You had a variety of representatives there, trying to reach down into their knowledge, into their practices, and do something beneficial for the people of the Kali Yuga. That means all of us. They were thinking of our welfare. But although they were trying, they were also dissatisfied. They felt like they weren't quite getting something right. And so they turned to one sage amongst them, and his name was Sutta Goswami. And they praised him. They all agreed, they were all in harmony, all in agreement with the idea that this Sutta Goswami is special. They said to him, you're special because you're specially blessed. Because you were they use this word saumya. Because you were the gentle disciple of your gurus, they blessed you. They blessed you that you would understand the essence of Srila Vyasadev's text. You would understand the essence of Vedanta. And so they said, so please allow us to place a question before you. And the question essentially was, what is the essence of these texts? What is it that brings the highest good to all humanity and brings complete satisfaction to the self? Atma Suprasiddhiti. Right? So that was their question. And what Sutta Goswami did was he heard the question. He went internal and he connected with his guru through his remembrance of him. His guru is named Shukadeva Goswami. And he began to praise his guru, Shukadeva Goswami, who spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he began to turn back to the sages and say, thank you. Thank you for asking this question. Because only these kind of questions can lead to Atma Suprasiddhiti, can lead to the complete satisfaction in self. So essentially, this is what we should be asking. When I was raised in school, I was taught to ask certain questions. But the questions had more to do with how will I be successful materially? But most people, they don't slow down enough to really, not on a superficial level, but on a deep level, really try to understand what brings the ultimate good, what delivers the complete satisfaction to the self. And perhaps the most fundamental question to pursue that is, who am I? Who am I? That may be the most fundamental and first question that we need to examine. Am I this body? If I am this body, then I need to consider, even in this one lifetime, I've been through many bodies. The body that I was in as a child is no longer here. There's a new body composed of different cells, right? Here now. But I am conscious of this body, and I was also, same me was conscious of that body. And I've been conscious of all the bodies in between. So somehow it doesn't seem like I am the body. It seems like I'm the observer of the body, or I'm within the body. I'm the passenger within the body. This is Krishna's first instruction to Arjuna. Dihinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. That as the embodied living entity passes in this life from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly we pass into another body at death, and dhira, the sober person, the person that's got a cool head, they can see all this. The person that's not too distracted, the person that's slowing down a little bit and really observing, they see this. They can see, I must not be this body. Am I this mind? Right? The mind is really just the very subtle part of the body, right? What is the mind made of? It's made of the same matter that the body's made of, but just a very refined form of matter, this mind. And one can also say, the mind is something that I look at. This is what we learn even as a beginner in practicing meditation. Many of you, I'm sure, have practiced meditation, even gone to a beginner's class, and you're asked to sit down, sit up straight, close your eyes, bring your mind to your breath. And as you bring your mind to your breath, what happens is you begin to forget about the past, what happened earlier today. You begin to forget about the future, where I'm going next, your worries, your regrets. They kind of recede from your awareness as you bring your mind to your breath. The connection of the mind to the breath has a way of settling the mind. And then generally you're asked to look at your own thoughts, right? See them pass through your mind. Don't try to stop them. Don't try to change them. Just observe them. And that experience of observing one's own thoughts can be, for many people, can be a profound and life-changing experience where at one moment something becomes crystal clear. And if we're fortunate, it's something that we understand and we hold on to for the rest of our life. And that is that I'm not my mind. I'm sitting here watching this mind, and I'm watching the thoughts go through it. And they're not thoughts that I choose. They're thoughts that are already within the programming of this computer, and they're passing through the screen, and I'm watching them. So I'm not my body, and I'm not my mind. And if I'm not my body, and if I'm not my mind, then again, who am I? Right? Who am I? And to understand that, we can turn to these sacred texts, because there's certain things that no matter how materially advanced we are, they're beyond the scope. They're beyond the scope of our observation. We can look into this body all we want. We could take microscopes. You're not going to see the self, right? No matter how advanced we are. It's kind of like saying someone may, let's say you took a painting, like you took the Mona Lisa, and a scientist was given this painting, and they said, tell me all that you can tell me about this painting. And they could break out their microscopes and their chemicals and their test tubes and their all the equipment that they have. They could do carbon dating and other types of experiments. They could probably tell us what was used to create the paint. What kind of dyes were used? Was it berries? Was it some kind of minerals from the earth? What was used to make these colors? They could tell us what was the canvas made of? Was it made of cotton? They might even be able to tell us where that cotton was grown. What kind of special, what kind of unique, what's the word I'm looking for? Like type of cotton, like grade or something. They could tell us all kind of things. They could tell us so much about it. But with all of that knowledge, could they tell us who painted it? Right? No matter how far they go, they wouldn't be able to tell. That's something that they could tell by hearing from someone that knew, right? Somebody that was there. Somebody could say, I know who painted this painting. It doesn't matter how long you look into your microscope, you're not going to, maybe if he signed it, but other than that, they won't know, right? You can take a book like the works of Shakespeare, or the works of Shakespeare. Say scientists took the works of Shakespeare, but they didn't know the English language. They didn't know the characters in the English language. But they said, this seems to be a serious message here. There's all different kind of characters on these pages. We don't know exactly what they say, but we're going to examine it and we're going to try to break the code. We're going to try to understand what's being said here. And they might see there's certain laws that we can see. There's this little dot that keeps being put in there, just a little dot by itself. And we believe that's where the end of a particular thought ends, and then a new thought begins after that. We keep seeing that dot come up, right? We think there's a law. We think we're observing a law. Oh yeah, when that dot comes, a thought ends, and then the next thought comes. And we're seeing this, and they could start to break it down and go into the code, right? Scientists today, they look at this world and they see the patterns, they see the codes. But in the end, they tell us nobody coded it, right? It's kind of like looking at the works of Shakespeare and seeing all the laws of grammar operating in there, recognizing it, and then saying nobody wrote this book, right? It just appeared. But the yogis are saying there's certain things that lie beyond the perception of our eyes. There's certain things that lie beyond the range of our speculation, of our thought. And those things we can understand by hearing. We just need to hear from someone that knows. We just need to hear from a decent source. And what the yogis put forward as the source of clear knowledge is the Veda, right? This body of knowledge. They say that there's a unique body of knowledge that is, the word they use is apurusheya. Apurusheya means no person. It wasn't created by a human being. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even exactly created. It's something that always exists. It's something that has always been and will always be. And it's there and available to us. And all we need to do is learn the art of tapping into it. But it's very subtle. It's not an easy thing to do, right? And I've been bringing this up in some of the classes, but imagine if someone said, like, if 200, 300 years ago, someone said there's knowledge floating through the air, we might have been very skeptical. But how can we be skeptical today, right? When we know right within underneath this tent, every bit of information that's on YouTube is floating right through this space, right? That's a huge body of knowledge. And not just that, everything that's available on the internet is floating right through this space right now. We can't see it, but it's all that information is right here. And if someone just has the technology, someone created this thing. I have no idea how it does it. Zero. I don't know. But somehow this machine is able to tap into that field of knowledge that's floating through here and download it. And the yogis say this is a relatively simple piece of equipment compared to the human brain or the human mind, which has the ability, if one is trained, if one performs the right austerities, if one is able to settle the mind, then one can see the path, how to tap into that knowledge. And that knowledge is beyond the range of our senses or beyond the range of our speculation. It's sometimes they say that this body of knowledge, they say it's the mother. It's like the Veda is our mother. If we want to know who our father is, nowadays there's DNA and all of that, but in the past, people didn't have access to that. If you wanted to know who your father was, there's one person that should be able to tell you. Right? That should be your mother. And so the Vedas are like that. If we want to know who the father is, who's behind all of this, then the mother tells us. And that's the Veda. That's this Vedic knowledge. And that's where we bring our questions, and that's where we find our answers. If we're looking for spiritual guidance, in this tradition, you look not for someone that poses as an enlightened person, but you look for someone who operates as a representative, right? This knowledge was tapped into by Vyasadeva. He edited it. He kind of broke it into categories and got it down in written form. And then that's been handed down from teacher to student, from teacher to student, from teacher to student, guru disciple, guru parampara. It's called handed down. We're in the tradition, when you seek guidance, you seek it from someone who's dedicated to representing that knowledge. And you go before them and you ask a question like, who am I? Who am I really? If I'm not this body, if I'm not this mind, then what am I? Who am I? Help me understand myself. Help me understand my true nature. And they will inform us and help us hear, understand, and then give us practices by where that understanding goes from theoretical to realized, from jnana to vijnana, right? Then we come to the stage of wisdom, where we're seeing the world through the eyes of this knowledge. And they call that jnana chakshusa, seeing through the eyes of knowledge, spontaneously, seeing through the wisdom of these ancient texts. Then we're getting somewhere. Then that will give us the ability to process all of the things that are happening to us in life, process them in such a way where rather than become entangled or distracted, that we actually move forward towards our freedom. And in that peaceful state of mind, one is able to absorb their mind, which is otherwise always distracted, and focus it deeply on powerful spiritual content, like mantra, like that. And through that, have a powerful inner transformation. But it all begins with the question, who am I? So perhaps that's the most important question. Thank you. Thank you for getting us started tonight.
Hi. I was wondering, who is this observer you're talking about then?
It's kind of like saying, we see a body, a living body, and we watch that living body die. Who is inside? It's like that, right? There was someone that was, there was consciousness within that body. Bhagavad Gita says that just like we can look in the sky and we can see the sun and how the sun spreads its rays everywhere, similarly, there's a sun within the body that's spreading its rays everywhere, from the top of the head down to the tips of the toes, right? What are the rays? The rays are consciousness, right? Feeling, awareness, right? If you come up to me and sneak behind me and just came up and touched my tiny little toe, right? Just lightly touch, I'll feel it. I know that you're doing it, even if I can't see it, because my awareness is spread all the way to the toe. If you come and very lightly tap me on the head, I'll feel it because my awareness has spread to the tip of my head. Now the yogis say that within this area of the body, the area of the heart, they say it's like a cave. And within that area of the heart resides the self, the soul. They use generally the word the Atman, the self. That self, consciousness, is what the yogis say, is that consciousness is not a combination of material ingredients. You can't take the elements of this material world and blend them in such a way that consciousness arises. Believe me, scientists are trying to do it, and they're getting very frustrated. They thought they were like almost there, and now they're realizing they're nowhere. They're trying to tell us AI is conscious, but really we all know that that's not true. It's just calculating more quickly, but that doesn't mean it's feeling anything. Consciousness means we feel, we perceive, right? AI can imitate consciousness, but it's not conscious, right? So the yogis are saying within the material body, which is something that you can blend together with material ingredients, there's a spark, there's a light, there's a sun, and that's the self, that's the Atman, that's the observer. It's able to observe. In the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he calls this the drista, the seer, right? Because is it the eyes that see? Right? Eyes are just a lens, just a camera, right? Yeah, but it's actually the self that sees through the eyes, right? The Atman sees through the eyes. So he calls it the seer. He could have called it the hearer. He could have called it the taster or the toucher or the smeller. He could have called it any of this because it's the self that perceives through the senses. The senses don't perceive, the self inside. And the yogis say that spark, they say the size of it is 1/10,000th the size of the very tip of a hair. Meaning it's imperceivable. It's so small it's invisible. But that's the self, very tiny, but powerful, eternal. And it's that little spark that spreads its awareness throughout the whole body. They say that when the blood flows through this cave this cave of the heart, that somehow the blood picks up this consciousness, The consciousness is carried through the blood. So if you touch my toe, I'll feel it because the blood is flowing there. If you take a tourniquet, take a rubber hose or a piece of rope, and you tie it around underneath my knee, you tie it very tight, and you cut off the flow of blood, then when you go and touch my toe, I won't feel it. My awareness becomes dulled in that place because the blood's no longer flowing. You take it back off and you let the blood flow again, and you will feel it again. The awareness flows through the blood. If you cut my skin, I'll feel it. If you cut my fingernails, I won't feel anything. There's no blood flowing through there. Cut my hair, I won't feel it. There's no blood. So it's the self, this spark within the body, that is the observer. That is us. That is us. A spark of spiritual energy that by nature is eternal and changeless, conscious and full of knowledge, and blissful, and ultimately blissful in divine love. That is the self. That is the nature of the self. That is the nature of every living being. Every human being, every animal, even every plant has an Atma in it. And the yogis say that it's not that one Atma is different than the other. It's not that there's a human Atma, there's a man Atma, a woman Atma, a human Atma, a dog Atma, a tree Atma, a blade of grass Atma. Consciousness can be in rock as well, or at least in the atoms within the rock. But they say that it appears that they're so different. A human being seems to be far more sensitive than a tree, for instance, and it seems to be able to express itself. It seems that its consciousness is more refined or more developed. But the yogis say that's not because the self is different. It's not because the Atma is of a different category or quality. They say it's just the body that it's in that moment that is either expanding or contracting the expression of its awareness. Think of it like this. If you wanted to see how fast I was, you might put me to the test. And if on the day that you ask me, how fast is Kaustubha? If I was borrowing my friend's Porsche, then I might drive by you at 200 miles an hour with ease. And you might say, Kaustubha is very fast. But if on the next day you tested me again and I didn't have that car, I only had like some old, worn out piece of junk car that only goes 50 miles an hour. And then I drove past you and that, you might say, oh, Kaustubha is slow. Now, it's not that I was fast one time and slow the other time. It was just the car that I was in that was either expanding or contracting my ability to move fast. And so the yogis are saying the soul in the human is the same as the soul in the animal, is the same as the soul in the plant. And it moves through all these different incarnations. We move. We leave one body, we enter another. We enter another body and we come up the chain. We get better ability to express our awareness. We become more sensitive and we can express more. And we climb up the chain and then we get to the human birth. And the human birth, they say, when you reach this stage, this is really important. Now you have special opportunities. So they say, Atato Brahma Jignasa. This is the first verse of the Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is the compressed form of all the teachings of the Upanishads, the spiritual teachings of the Upanishads. It says, Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now is the time. Atato, right now. Because you're in this human body, now's the time to inquire into the absolute truth, to inquire into Brahman, to inquire into spirit. Don't miss this opportunity because you're in a body right now that can handle it. Take advantage of it, right? And so use the facility that you're in, the human facility that you're in now has the ability to ask these questions. Don't miss it. Take advantage of it. Use it, you know. And then you begin to, from within the body, you begin to realize I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. Even trapped within that body, you're free. Even though the miseries of this world may visit the body and the mind, the observer within is looking at it from a distance and is undisturbed. That's a real yogi when we come to that stage. Thank you very much. Nice questions. Good topic matters, yes? We need to remind ourselves of this, and we need to reflect on this knowledge as we go through life, because it will challenge. That's what I was saying. Say everything I just said you agreed with, then that's great. Now we have theoretical knowledge, but there's a way that that knowledge matures, and so that it becomes more than just theoretical, but it becomes how we understand and see the world spontaneously. And that's called vijnana, that's realized knowledge. And one way of maturing knowledge into realized knowledge into wisdom, is through reflection, through bringing that knowledge up again in our mind as we go through the challenges in life. It starts to mature. It starts to become the way that we see things, naturally, spontaneously. Thank you very much. More questions? Yes.
Just on that, regarding reflection, a practical question. The chanting of the Mahamantra, being singing in Kirtan or sitting quietly, chanting out loud, or just mentally whispering the mantra. My question is, can you speak about those various channels of repeating Mahamantra?
So let's just revisit what we're saying so far. Each one of us is a spark of spiritual energy that is Sat Chit Ananda by nature, eternal, full of wisdom, full of bliss, but somehow suffering in this world, somehow feeling pain, somehow, even though our nature is blissful, we experience pain, we experience depression, we experience boredom, we experience so many feelings that are separate from our nature, even opposite of our nature. The yogis are saying because the mind is getting in the way, because you're looking at the mind and identifying the mind as the self. Well, the nature of the mind, the mind itself is made out of matter. The nature of matter is that it's always changing. So you're up one moment and you're down the next. The nature of the self is that it's always steady. But because you're not looking at the self, you're looking at the mind as the self. You're feeling that I'm going through ups and downs, and you're not experiencing your own nature. How are we going to restore you in such a way? How can we deal with the obstacle of the mind so that it no longer interferes with you experiencing your own true nature? And the yogis, the bhakti yogis in particular, because your question especially is relevant for the bhakti yogis, they say that if you bring the mind to the right content, you can reprogram that mind in such a way where it's harmonious with your nature. And they list five different forms of content, spiritual content, that you can absorb your mind in, and it'll have this transformative effect. One of them is the name, right? The names of God. There's a whole theology, a whole science behind the name of God. What is the verse I'm trying to think of? Nama Chintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Shoot us. No, I'm forgetting my verses now. You got it? You working on it there? Bhinidvam Nama Namino. It's saying that that this name, you have? Purna Shuddha, completely pure. Nitya Mukto, eternally liberated. Bhinidvam Nama Namino. The name is non-different from what is named. So Nama Chintamani Krishna. The name of Krishna is like a Chintamani stone. It can fulfill all desires. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. It's full of rasa. It's a form full of rasa, full of spiritual emotion. Purna Shuddho, completely pure. Nitya Mukto, eternally liberated. Binitvam namanamino. The name itself, this is different than the material realm, where if I say orange juice, I don't necessarily taste orange juice. The name and the object are different. But the yogis, these realized yogis, are saying Krishna's name and Krishna are non-different. When you say the name, you are in the presence of Krishna. So the name is one. The text, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is another. That it is non-different from Sri Krishna. The holy place, the Dham, right? The holy place, particularly Vrindavan, right? Non-different from Krishna, right? The association of other great souls, the Sadhu Sangha, and the meditation, the meditational practice of the worship of the deity form of Krishna, that these five are incredibly potent, powerful, transformative forms of content that we can bring the mind to absorb the mind in and transform the mind and feel the nature of the self arise. And of all of these, it's said that in this day and age, the primary one is the name. And the primary practice is the sung kirtan. Kirtan means the glorification through the name. Sung means together, wholly, fully together. So it indicates the practice that we're doing every night here, coming together to chant. Now, the idea is that these forms of content are powerful. They are transformative. But there's only one problem that we have. Can anyone guess the problem? Why are we not getting as transformed as quickly as we wish? Well, we do need to learn a lot, because when we learn a lot, it allows us to let go of a lot, and then we can absorb the mind. Until we let go of a lot, we have trouble absorbing our mind. It's distracted, it's here and there, it's focused outward. But when we let go of a lot, then we're better able to hold that mind where we want it, to place it where we want it without distraction. And so the practice of chanting japa is more challenging than the practice of chanting in the kirtan. When chanting japa is it's a deeply meditative process that demands a more peaceful mind. Anyone can step into that kirtan, and it can carry their mind away. The combination of the music and the combination of all the people doing it together has the power to carry one. And when one's carried in that, also the possibility of some special feelings. Someone can feel some special feelings in that are more challenging to access through the path of chanting japa. But our chanting of japa is something very special as well. It's something where you're alone with Krishna. And sometimes our relationships deepen when we're alone. Isn't it true? Like you may spend time with a person, always with others, and then somehow circumstances separate the two of you from the others. And you spend time more intimately, and you get to know each other better. So we're happy to chant and associate with Krishna through his name in the kirtan, and it carries us and is powerful. But when we spend time alone with Krishna, chanting japa, there is an opportunity to go very deep. Right? And chanting the chanting is not complicated. One just has to hear. That's all. The sound itself is not different from Krishna. If you just hear it without your mind being somewhere else, then it'll be powerfully transformative. So one can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and hear the sound. And by hearing the sound, one can bring their mind to it. Now, one can also do that just in the mind, silently. But generally, for the beginners, for the less advanced, vibrating the sound is going to make it easier to bring the mind to it. Right? Let it vibrate from your... Really, it's like this. Again, it's said that this name, there's a song written by one great realized bhakti yogi. Golokera prema dhana harinama sankirtana. Goloka is the place of Krishna in the spiritual realm beyond the universe that we're in. Golokera prema dhana, that this sound comes, the sound of Krishna's name, it comes from Goloka, prema dhana, and it gives prema. It gives love of Godhead. Golokera prema dhana harinama sankirtana. This harinama, this name of Krishna, delivers this. So the name has that power. The name itself is in an instant can completely transform us, can completely transform the mind and awaken this prema within us. We just have to find some way to absorb it. So you chant the name, with the realization that it's descending. It's entering into my ear, and we have to let it go to the heart. When you hear the name, let it come right here. Even if you go into that kirtan and you put your hand right here. So when you chant, you're more aware of this area of your body, and you can let it come right here. When you put your hand there, it reminds you that this chanting is meant to take place here in the heart. Sometimes if you chant, sometimes you see the representations of the sadhus, the great saints, when they're chanting, they hold their beads right here. Hold it right at the heart. And the sound should enter the ear, it should go to the heart. And there should be some feeling ultimately of love, but at least of some gratitude, some affection should be right there. And from that place, then we chant from here. We don't chant from here. We chant from here. From the heart, the sound comes up. And it vibrates through our mouth, but it's really originating here in the heart. This is the springboard of it. It's come down, it's through my ear, entered my heart. Now I chant it, I echo it from the heart through the mouth, and it vibrates through my throat and in the ether. And then I hear it again, right? So now it's vibrating from my heart, it's vibrating in my throat, it's vibrating in the ether, it's vibrating in my eardrum. And I let myself just bathe in that vibration. Just like it's rain, just like it's a shower. Just keep producing the sound of the mantra. Just keep producing it. And if you can produce it for the pleasure of Krishna, then chant in that mood. Chant to please Krishna. Chant to stay absorbed in the vibration. And just let that, and we can chant japa like that. Right? And it will be satisfying. It'll be satisfying. But again, this chanting, if we chant like that, then when we go into this chanting, then really, it's our relationship is stronger and deeper when we chant, and we can be blessed by feeling even a stronger connection or stronger transformation. So whether we chant silently, whether we chant japa individually, or whether we chant loudly in the kirtan with everyone else and with the music, all are wonderful. But especially this kirtan has power. Thank you. Next question. More questions? See some new people here. Happy to have you here. Yes.
Okay, so we hear from the sacred texts that we are spiritual, that is our true nature, and it all makes sense to me. And in some way, you also have already answered the question that I guess that knowledge hasn't completely transformed into realization, because what I feel is that even though it makes sense and I know, I still have so many attachments, and I realize that because I'm afraid of losing things. I'm afraid of, I know I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, yet I'm afraid of losing them. So I conclude from that I don't have complete faith in that is true, that there is a spiritual world, or that it is actually a better place for me to be. So I was wondering if you could just speak on faith, or what like gives you faith, or were there any moments in your journey that really increased your faith like that?
So, in one sense, we could say that the path of bhakti begins with faith, shraddha, adao shraddha. It starts with faith. And that faith at each stage of advancement is just the growing or the deepening of that faith, until everything is revealed. Now, how does that faith grow? What's the second stage? First, it's adao shraddha, and then sadhu sangha. Adao shraddha. Do you know these stages? You've heard them before. Adao shraddha, sadhu sangha. It begins with the faith. What does that faith look like? What is the beginning of the faith? It can be as simple as, I think these people are onto something good. It can just be as simple as that, right? I think these people are onto something. That's the beginning of the faith. Then you hear more about it. Maybe you read some books on it. And then that makes you say, I need to spend more time with these people. And that's called sadhu sangha. Being in the assembly, spending time with the sadhus, with the people that are practicing the faith. And then what happens is that faith becomes stronger. And it strengthens to a really important stage. And that stage is, I get it now. It's really clear to me. I may still have some attachments, but I get it. That my strategy of pursuing real meaning and lasting happiness through external things will necessarily fail, because it's not found through external things. I'm convinced of that now. That's a growth in faith. I'm convinced of that now, and I want to dedicate my body, my mind, and my words to pursuing spiritual life, because I know that's where my well-being lies. And I'm 100% convinced of it, and I'm not turning back. When one comes to that stage, they come to the third level, and that's called bhajana kriya. And that bhajana kriya means I become purified through my practice. Now there's going to be sadhana, bhajan done, worship done. But that worship now should be done under guidance of someone who's, now it's like, now I need to be guided. Now I want to take this real seriously. I want someone to show me. I want someone to take these teachings and this path, and I want them to customize it for my own situation, for my own psychology, for my own external circumstances. And I'll dedicate myself to following that path. And through following that path, one enters into the next stage. That's called anartha nivritti, where all the unwanted things, they begin to slip away. And part of that is our doubts. And those doubts have to be brought up to the guide, to the teacher. And the teachers, the ability that they need is the ability to answer those doubts. The ability that when you hear those words, your doubts go away. Okay, now I get it. The doubt had arisen in me, and now I've heard that again, and now the doubt is gone. And you asked me personally, have I had certain faith increasing times? And I've shared, just the other night, I was sharing that the first time I heard my guru speak, I didn't know he would be my guru, but he came into a small apartment of most unlikely young teenage kids and spoke to us for about an hour and a half or so. And any doubt that at that point, I was at a point in my life where I was reading Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads and Prabhupada's books, and they were resonating with me seriously. But the drive in me had not been awakened to say, this is it for me. But when he spoke, his words, they changed something within me. And I said, this is it. From now on, I'm dedicated to this. But one dedicates themselves, and still sometimes a cloud will pass through one's awareness, a cloud of doubt, or you could say a cloud that's like just weakens one's clarity or weakens one's determination. And reflection is powerful at this time too. Because if we have a moment in our life where we have complete clarity, if we have a moment in our life where we say, now I understand, we should understand that the clarity of our perception is something that's being attacked all the time. We were discussing this morning, right? We think we are free to make our own decisions. What we don't know, and what the yogis are telling us and what the sacred texts are telling us, is that at every moment, external forces, I know this may sound scary, external forces are infiltrating our minds through our senses and affecting the clarity of our perception. Playing with our emotions, like that. It's called the gunas, the three modes of material nature. The yogis are saying every object that we interface with through the senses is radiating either an influence that brings greater lucidity and clarity to the mind, or clouds the mind with desires for the things of this world, or even darker kind of confusion, right? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So as we move, we may have a moment of perfect clarity. I get it. Commonly, those moments happen in the presence of our teacher. I get it. I know it. I understand it. I don't doubt it. This is it. No doubt about it. And then we go through life and these external forces are entering our mind and creating confusion and creating doubt. One has to reflect at that moment. One has to reflect that I'm a little clouded right now. I can even see the cloud floating over. I can even give it a name, right? But I know that not long ago, I had complete clarity. Let me reflect on that. Let me reflect on what I had heard. Let me reflect on the example that I saw. Let me reflect on the feeling that I had when I was completely clear. And by that reflection, the clouds of doubt can also dissipate like this. You're in a challenging situation. You live in a situation where you're mostly distant from other practitioners. You practice bhakti in India a century ago, 2 centuries ago, 10 centuries ago. You lived in a community of people that were practicing the same spiritual practice. And now we practice it in little pockets. And sometimes a person that's very sincere doesn't have daily sangha. So that's a challenge. Right? And then you have other responsibilities that demand your time. Raising children, being a good wife, being a good mother, being a teacher, all these things. They're demanding. And so as we, in our world of isolation, it's to be expected that there'll be clouds of doubt or some dampening of our enthusiasm. We have to reconnect through reflection, reconnect through hearing, reconnect through chanting, reconnect through sadhu sangha. Real important. And we discussed this some week or so ago. One has to have time in their life that's exclusively devoted to their spiritual practice. If we don't, it will for sure, that the flame will just shrink, and practically blow out. So it means certain hours of the day exclusively devoted to our spiritual practice. Certain days of the month exclusively devoted. Ideally, certain months, if not at least some weeks of the year, exclusively devoted to our spiritual practice. And ideally also certain years of our life exclusively devoted. And through this, one can keep that enthusiasm, that clarity strong. Nothing like hearing from a realized person, and nothing like daily interfacing with the sacred teachings himself. Not weekly, not every other day. Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. Connecting with these texts daily. It's essential. It's essential. And even then, the books may not speak to us. Not speak to us in the same way, in the way that removes all the doubt or blows away all the clouds. Then sadhu sangha, guru, sadhu sangha, these become super important. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Practical questions, right? We have to ask these questions. How many of you have like a daily spiritual practice? You do. Okay. Most, not all. Right? Yeah. But challenging? Right. Can be very challenging. Okay. More questions? Yes? Oh, we'll let her go first. I'm forgetting your name again? Emily.
Other than reading the spiritual texts, can you give a more comprehensive list of what could be included within daily spiritual practice?
First thing that you do the moment that you wake up, you can kind of bow down even in your bed, and you can speak to God. Commonly, the brahmanas, they would have certain prayers that they would say. They would say a mantra. There's a I once read a book. It was called something like I found this old book in a bookstore in Vrindavan. It was like falling apart, dusty. It looked like it had been produced 50 years ago or something like that. And it was called, I forget the exact title, but it was something they called The Brahmins of South India, something like that. And what it was their daily regimen. And it's strict, it's like rigid, how they go through life. These are like really disciplined people. And so it begins with the first prayer that they say before they roll out of bed and put their foot on the ground. They say a mantra. And essentially what the mantra is, Dear Mother Earth. The message is like this. Now I have to step on you. Generally in India, you don't touch anyone with your feet. That's a real disrespectful thing to do. But we're going to have to walk on the earth. But the earth is our mother, right? Bhumi. So the prayer is, Dear Mother Earth, now I have to step on you, but may every step that I take be in the service of your Lord, Lord Vishnu. In South India, where these Brahmins are from, they worship Lord Vishnu, and on his side is Bhu Devi, Mother Earth. And so the prayer is so you love Vishnu. So every step that I take, may it be in service of the one you love. Right? So that by stepping on you, I'm actually assisting you in serving the one that you love. So one says this, and then they don't place their left foot on the ground, they place their right foot on the ground, right? As a sign of respect. This is the first thing you do. So we don't necessarily have to follow the exact regimen of these Brahmins and learn these mantras, but we might just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which is a prayer for service, right? That's what I do. I chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra first thing I wake up. And then I offer my respects to my guru, right, through a mantra. Then you want to bathe. In the West, a lot of people, they don't necessarily bathe every day, or they bathe like later in the day. You bathe first thing. You put on clean clothes. That does a lot to bring you into the sattva guna, where there'll be more clarity. And then you could do different practices. If you wake up early, that's another big thing, real big thing. Rising early. Go to bed a little early, rise a little early. If you can rise before the sunrise, this is really good. When I became a monk, we used to wake up early. There was a ceremony that was usually at 4:30 in the morning, whatever temple we'd go to. And so we would have to wake up at least in time to be ready for that. So usually like 4 o'clock. would be the latest we'd get up. But we'd also like to sometimes wake up more like 3 o'clock, or sometimes even earlier, because we realize this time is super valuable for our chanting, or super valuable for our studying, that you can just study with a clear mind. And so waking up now, I don't live in an ashram anymore. I have my own apartment, and I'm older now, and I find that my body, I think from doing it back when I was younger, it created a certain rhythm in my body. And I think also as you grow older, it's natural that you rise earlier. And now I without an alarm clock, without any effort, without any struggle, I usually am up somewhere between 3 and 4, usually 3:30 latest, and sometimes even earlier than that. Like sometimes even like 2:45. I'm just woken up. The yogis say that it's the Paramatma in your heart that wakes you. Wake up. And then if you just listen, you begin to realize, I could lie here longer, or I could get up. It's easier to lie there longer. But what happens is if you get up, you're glad you did. You're always glad that you did. So if you push through that and get up, take your shower, put on clean clothes, you're like, look at it now. Look, I got this time. Especially for people that have a demanding schedule in life. There's nothing more valuable than this time right now. Because there's going to be all kind of demands placed on your time throughout the day, but right now you've got your own time, and you're up before anybody else is up. So there's nobody to interfere, and that time becomes your valuable. So if you can wake up before the sun rises, if you can wake up an hour before other people wake up, if you can even just buy yourself a good half hour extra in this time of day, you can do a lot with that. And that lot may be reading Bhagavad Gita, right? Read one verse, read 10 verses, read one chapter a day. Very life-changing. Chant the Mahamantra. These are the things especially Bhakti yogis do. Like chanting Mahamantra, reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, the fundamental practices. Sometimes if someone develops a certain faith, it can be a very useful practice to offer some puja, some seva, it's a meditation of offering to, it may be a painting of Radha and Krishna or a form. This is also a powerful meditative practice. So that's another practice one can do. Then let's say you have to make breakfast. So rather than just cook and eat like most people do, the cooking and eating can become seva for Krishna. That you can cook not exactly for yourself, but you can cook for the pleasure of Krishna and make an offering of that food. And then eat that offering as prasadam. So now you're really tying in a strong spiritual program. So all of these things are potentially really, life-changing, good, strong spiritual practices. There's much more, but this is a good start.
Yeah, just a follow up on one of those. To me, like bathing sounds like a physical practice. Can you speak to what is spiritual in the bathing, the clean clothes, the more physical activities? What's the, on the other side, spiritual lens?
If we were to take any of the yoga practices, there's different paths of yoga. They involve all kind of internal and external elements. But what they all share in common, different practices work in different ways, different yoga practices. But what they all share in common is that they all are meant to address the mind for the purpose of the self experiencing its own true nature. So yoga is a practice which empowers one to overcome the obstacle of the mind for the purpose of the self experiencing their own true nature. So anything that one is doing in yoga, if it's chanting a mantra, if it's doing an asana, which is also a very physical activity, if it's doing a ritual like a puja, if it's there's so many different yogic arts, and there's a whole social realm of etiquette that's connected with how you relate to others. There's so much to yoga. Pranayama, pratyahara, all these things, they all relate to yoga. But what ties them all together and what they all share in common is that they're all addressing the mind. Take asana, right? What is asana? It's moving the body and breathing. And what is its value? Does it make the body healthier? Yes. It makes the body healthier. It gives it one thing. It does. All the different systems of the body. There's the muscular system, skeletal system, digestive system, endocrine system, respiratory system, and then there's the other subtle channels of energy that are moving through subtle systems in the body that really only the yogis speak of and know of. Asana has a way of restoring all these systems and keeping them flowing smoothly. When you do a twist like this, one of these, it's moving your internal organs in ways that they don't normally do. And so it's kind of like squeezing them and releasing them and bringing in a fresh rush of blood into the organ. It refreshes the organ, right? When you stand on your head, in all of your legs, there's different, like the veins. It's hard to pump blood up in the body. And so what happens is in a vein, there's little valves that when the blood gets pumped, it goes like this, and then it closes so that the blood doesn't come back down. You understand? But in that little V space, blood collects and hardens and dries. And that's what leads to like varicose veins and things like that. But when you stand on your head, it all starts to flow, And so the asanas are brilliantly designed to get all the systems in our body flowing well. Again, respiratory. How can a yogi sit still with a straight in a position like this for a long time? Most people can't do it. But through asana, you give yourself the ability to sit straight, sit peacefully, sit still for a long time. Then you can meditate, which is an internal practice. So the external has its effect on the internal. When the digestive system is flowing effectively, when the respiratory system is working very nice and smooth, when the circulatory system is all flowing well, the mind tends to become more lucid. And when they're not flowing well, the mind tends to become heavier and more clouded. And so whatever we do external, including bathing. Bathing in the Vedic text, this is the beginning of the practice of the vidhi, the bath, right? It's the beginning of, I wake up and I'm all like in a cloud. I take a bath and I walk out refreshed, alert, lucid, like that. So we bathe the body, we put on clean clothes for the sake of a lucid mind. It helps us have a lucid mind. So whatever we do externally has its effect internally. And so therefore the yogis carefully consider their external activities. Okay. Thank you. How do you go? We have a bit more time, about 20 more minutes or so maybe. Any other questions out there? Such a nice group. I'm enjoying spending this time with you all. I hope you're enjoying it too. Good? Okay. Question? Oh yeah, you had a question.
I would like to reincarnate, not as a human anymore, but going back to an animal or a plant. Is this possible?
It's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it. Not only possible, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. Young vapi smaran bhavan jajanyate kalevaram tam evaitikantaya saratat bhava bhavitaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that whatever state of mind one remembers at the time of death, that determines the next birth. And so the idea is, where is our level of consciousness? A lot of us are moving through this world in a human body, but more or less on animal level consciousness. I don't mean to put down I think we have a lot to learn from the animals. Some of the sages, they would list the different things you could learn from different animals. Like there are 4 things you can learn from the dog. Would you like to know what they are? Dog lovers out there? Any dog lovers? I don't know if I remember them all, but I remember some of them. One is that the dog is very loyal. The dog is very courageous. These are 2. I'm not sure if I remember all 4, but I remember another one too. When the dog wakes up, it's immediately alert. Right? This is just like we're talking, like we wake up and then we live in this haze. Some people live in that haze, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour. They live in this haze. The dog is like, boom, let's go. You watch a dog when they wake up, right? They say we can learn from this, especially that loyalty and that courage. What the dog, we see dogs do wonderful things sometimes, right? So we can learn from the dog. Once there was a young spiritual seeker, practitioner, he had a guru. They were practicing bhakti yoga as Vaishnavas in South India, as worshippers of Lord Vishnu. And the young student said to his master, to his guru, what are the qualities of a Vaishnava, of a true bhakti yogi? What are the qualities? And his guru, a true guru, they're not jealous. Their concern is the welfare of the disciple. And so he said, I think you should ask this question of this great Vaishnava that I know. I think he'll give you a very good answer. You please go and seek out that answer from him. But that great soul lived very far away. And this was a time before there were trains or cars. So he had to walk like for a month or so to reach that person. So you walk a long way. You imagine the effect that this has on you when you ask your question and how open you are to hear it. If you have to walk a month to get it. We don't do things like that so much in the world that we live in now. I'm going to walk a month. One time I visited a holy place called Tirupati. Who has been to Tirupati before? Okay, a couple people. It's probably the most visited temple in the world, or even more than the Vatican. It's visited more. Thousands of people every day. And all across the centuries, people would go there to see Lord Vishnu in the temple. They might walk for months. Everyone at least one time in their life would like to see Lord Vishnu. They might walk a long distance to get there. And I had the opportunity to visit there one time. I went there alone, but some friends called ahead of time and they lined up someone to help me. Because sometimes the lines are very long, but they're kind to foreigners because they know they've come from so far. And if you go to a certain place and show your passport, they let you get closer. Maybe you wait 2 hours instead of 18 hours. And so this person was going to bring me up and help facilitate my visiting the temple. Now, to get to the temple from the bottom of the hill, it's on a hill, you walk up over 3,500 steps. Good walk. Right? So he said, okay, let's go. We can get in the car. We'll drive up to this person that was deputed to show me and help me. He said, okay, let's get in the car, drive to the top of the hill. I said, well, hold it. I know that traditionally people have walked all these steps up to get to the top. You don't want to do that. He said, no, you definitely don't want to do that. I said, I kind of do want to do it. No, I'm telling you, you really don't. Fact was, he didn't want to do that. I wanted to do that. So anyway, my experience with him was, I was appreciative that he took the time, and I was appreciative that people had taken the time to care for me, to give me a guide. But in that way and in other ways, it actually, I would have preferred to have been alone. And so at the end, when we went up to the top and when I came out of the temple, I turned to him and said, I'll just walk down on my own. Thank you, I appreciate it. And I walked down by myself, and when I got to the bottom, I went to the place where I was staying, and I bumped into a friend of mine who I hadn't seen for 9 years. He just happened to be in the same place at the same time. We were very happy to see each other. We said, tomorrow, this was Brihad Bhanu. I saw Brihad Bhanu. He's a very colorful character. And we both said tomorrow morning we wake up early, we walk up the hill together, and we'll do this the right way. So anyway, this person had to walk a month, because when you walk up those 3,500, you're ready for that. You're in a different space. We can learn this art if we really start to become attuned to our mind. We can see, what do I have to do right now for something to sink in more deeply? Do I have to take a few deep breaths? Do I have to chant a mantra in my mind? Do I have to remind myself of something so that right now I receive what I'm supposed to receive? Otherwise, maybe it just bounces right off me. Before doing their pujas, the priests, they do what's called bhutta shuddhi. Whether it's through pranayam, through prayer, they let go of their current identity. They set it aside like it's a pair of boots or something. They step out of it and they step into their eternal identity. So at least for the time that they're doing the puja, they're taking it all in. They're not thinking about what I did or what I have to do. They do a little ritual to let go. So as we move through life and as we take up our spiritual practices, we can become more aware as, am I receptive right now? Or if not, what do I have to do to become more receptive right now? And in this case, we can imagine the guru knew by walking 1 month to get the answer. You know, if he would have answered it, he probably could have answered the question. But by telling his disciple, walk 1 month to get the answer, he knew it would probably sink in more deeply. True? So he walked a month. He found the ashram of this sage, this great Vaishnava. And when he went to, he bowed down. He said, my guru, you know my guru, he sent me to you to answer my question. And this sage said, very good, but right now I need you to help do this. Everybody's eating right now, I need you to help serve everybody out. So he began to serve them. And he was sensitive, so he said, he'd made it clear that I have a question. So he wasn't going to nag him. He said when the time comes, he'll say, what was your question? And so he waited for that time. And day after day after day were going by. And he just began to serve in the ashram. And he was patient. So not only did he have to walk a long way, he also had to be very patient. And after some time, that great soul went up to him and said, you had a question? Right? This is like days or even months later. And he said, yes. What are the qualities of a true Vaishnava? And he said, a true Vaishnava is like a crane, is like a dog? No, a chicken. Oh, yes. A true Vaishnava is like salt, is like a crane, is like a chicken, and is like you. And then he just walked away. And he's like, what? You know, okay, I got my answer, but I don't know what it means. And so then he thanked him, bowed down, you know, thank you so much for answering my question. And then he walked back. He walked a whole month or so back to get back. And then he reached home and he bowed down to his guru. And his guru said, oh, you're back. You know, so much time had passed now. Were you able to ask your question? Yes. He gave you an answer? Yes. What did he say? He said that a true Vaishnava is like salt, is like a crane, is like a chicken, and is like me. And his guru said, oh, very nice. Very nice. Very nice answer. He said, I don't understand. What does it mean? Can you tell me what it means? He said, yes, salt. Look at salt. Salt makes a dish taste better. There's so many ingredients. Let's say there's a vegetable. Maybe there's like a yogurt or something creamy to make this vegetable dish creamier. Then there's spices. And a lot of these spices are like popular and dynamic spices. Like, what are spices? You know, like you might have some cumin seed that's been roasted in ghee. Whew, nice aroma, nice flavor, you know. Maybe a little turmeric, maybe a little bit of chili, you know, that gives it a little bite, you know. And like this, different spices are in the dish, whatever it is. If it's milk, maybe you put a little cardamom in there, maybe a little saffron. These are expensive, beautiful, subtle spices. And when you taste it, you say, "Oh, that flavor of saffron is so nice," you know. So whatever dish is there, you put some salt in it, and it brings out those other flavors more. Nobody tastes the dish and says, "This salt is so good." But you taste it, and the salt makes the dish taste better and takes no credit, right? You're like a true Vaishnava is like salt. They're serving others. They're happy that the credit goes to others. They're serving and making everything better, and they're not interested at all in taking credit themselves. Nice lesson, huh? Salt. Right? A crane. We're talking about the animals. We're not saying that, we're saying better not to be an animal in your next birth, but we appreciate the animals and we learn from them. What do we learn from the crane? How is a Vaishnava like a crane? The crane stands in the stream, usually on one foot, right? It's got like 1 foot down and 1 foot up. And what is it doing? It's looking down in the water and it's looking. What is it looking at? Fish. Little fish are going by. Little fish go by and the crane doesn't do anything. It lets the little fish go by. What is it waiting for? A big fish, right? It waits, the little ones go by. It doesn't get distracted, it doesn't get confused, it doesn't waste its energy. But when a big fish comes by, boom. I see this out over the Ganga, I see sometimes. Not a crane, but I see a bird that just hovers in the air and then it goes straight down. Right? It's watching and it's letting all the little ones go by and then boom. So like that, we should let all the little things go by. We shouldn't let ourselves get caught up in being distracted by the little unimportant petty things in life, the little grievances, the little resentments that we have, the unimportant things. You're driving your car and someone a little bit too, maybe in a little bit inappropriate way, cuts you off. And we become furious and we begin to yell things at them. And then they're yelling things at. What are we wasting our time like this for? Right? Someone says one little thing wrong about us, we become upset and it plays loops in our mind, goes on and on and on. Or there's something going on, some sports match or some this, and we get all excited about it and we're reading newspaper articles about it and we're watching it and we're talking about it. And why are we getting caught up in these little things? One time I was with a person who's like a guru to me, a great soul. And we mentioned this lesson of the crane in the context of circumstances that we were in together. And I brought he was saying we shouldn't get all caught up in this. It's not a big thing. And I said, like the crane, we only focus on the big thing, on the big fish. And he said, yes, just like this, the crane, it only focuses on the big fish. And then he paused for a moment. He said, and in the end, there's only one big fish, and that's Radha and Krishna. In the end, that's really all that really is worthy of our full attention and absorption, or that we see everything in relation to Radha and Krishna. So salt, a crane, a chicken. What's it about the chicken? And I think I remember this one. Correct me if I'm forgetting. But the chicken eats seeds. And seeds have a way of going into animals and coming back out of them. Right? So, and what they leave behind, nobody's interested in. But the chicken can find something valuable even there. Right? Right? Even in the refuse of another animal, the chicken will find something valuable there. So in a similar way, a wise person can find valuable things in places where other people don't find them. Like that. Even it's not necessarily the person that's wearing the robes and got the long beard and has millions of followers. Anyone could find something there, perhaps, right? But they may find wisdom in another place, in the place that someone least expects to find it. So, like salt, like a crane, like a chicken, and then like you, he said. Well, why like him? Well, look at him, right? Look how much he was willing to do to gain wisdom. Look how far he came, how patient he was, how he served with humility, how he didn't push himself on him, and he waited. That attitude, it makes one so fertile to receive truth, to receive wisdom. If he would have got it on the spot and not been so respectful and been kind of demanding, tadvati pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. This is how one approaches a guru, a spiritual master. You approach them, you put your questions before them in the right mood. Pariprashnena. Pariprashnena. Pari means going around. You go around the subject, right? With someone that understands it more deeply. You look at it from different angles. You place your questions respectfully and sevaya, and you serve them. Because the knowledge, it won't be received in the same way if the attitude isn't right. But if the attitude is right, it's like planting a seed in fertile ground. It'll take root and it'll grow. So, like a chicken, like a crane, like salt, and like this person. So animals, we love animals, we can learn from animals. But the ideas, the yogis are saying, the human form grants one special ability to inquire into the truth. There are examples in these sacred texts of animals that were able, but they're few and far between. They're the exceptions. And sometimes in holy places you see animals that seem to be onto something. And we respect that too. But the human form is very good for spiritual life. And so, as we're saying, this saratad bhava bhavitaha, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, where your bhav is at the moment of death, what you're remembering, what you're feeling at that time, that will determine the next birth. And then he says, tasmat, therefore, sarveshu kaleshu, all of the time, mamanusmara, remember me, he's saying. Think of me always. Okay. So what you meditate on, that becomes your next form. Just like a glove is designed around a hand, so the next body is designed around the form of our consciousness, the form of our awareness. And then we take that on. But the human form grants us that opportunity. If we really take advantage of it, it allows us to break the cycle of rebirth into another material form and transcend it altogether. And if we use our human form for that, we'll make the best use of it. Thank you very much. Nice question, sir. We're out of time for tonight. Thank you, everyone. It's been a joy to be with you. Thank you. So kind. Again, 8 a.m. every morning, my dear friend, a real yogi, Yogi Charu, is teaching yoga meditation. His classes are becoming very popular because the word is spreading. He knows he knows all kind of exercises to go deeper into the mind, deeper into meditation in his asana classes. And people, when they experience this, oh, I've been looking for a teacher like this. So I highly recommend it. And then so he teaches from 8 till 9, asana and meditation. I teach from 9 to 10, talks on bhakti, on Vedanta. And of course, there's so much else happening here. Please enjoy the wonderful prasadam and the wonderful kirtan. I hope to see you in the mornings or to see you here again tomorrow night. I'm here every night. Thank you all so much. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari.